control, govern, follow us wherever we go. For instance, we know that an example of this when it comes to payment is that we have SWIFT payments. All the data is stored in Europe that concerns European transactions, but the American authorities have access to the data. The United States just says, give us the access to the data, and they will get it. So I think we are at the end of privacy. It's a question of accepting that fact and get on with our lives.
I think maybe before we open up to the floor for comments on this, I think that there is no question about that Google exemplifies a very positive trend that's been happening, in particular after the dot-com bubble burst, a huge democratization of access to starting businesses. I can remember in 2002 or 2003 at a conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, when Google were pitching for money, and that's only 10 years ago or something like that. It's really dramatically changed the way that everybody, not just Google then, but also small companies today, can start up businesses from the proverbial garage, or in Denmark, the top floor small apartment somewhere. This is undoubtedly a good thing, I think. The problem is, of course, as you also are pointing out, that this kind of new landscape for starting businesses involves totally new economics with respect to monopolists, with respect to data ownership, networks effect, and so on. We discussed privacy in the previous sections, and I'm not going to follow up on that. But the problem is, we've already seen probably the best way to exemplify this is the other work. The other word or the other verb is not just a Google thing, but there is also the word to Googleize things, which means that whenever something becomes big, then whenever information becomes big or in huge number, Google will take it over and monopolize it, maybe make it available to users, but those other small businesses in that area are effectively shut out of any competition because the network's effect of data is far more grave than the network's effect of technology. We have not even come close to understanding how to regulate that at the current time. But maybe you could also talk about issues, things like patents, net neutrality. Do you see these regulatory issues as either something that will support not just small businesses like Google 10 years ago, but also bigger business operating on business models like Google's today? And if anybody has comments, then just raise your hands and I will let them down.
Just a short comment. I think as a size wins in some way. Also, if you have enough size, you will have a huge bargain power, and that also towards nations. And I would first also admit I'm a tremendous Google user of most of the products actually as well. So I'm paying with my privacy in a way, but their tools are a great support in my work. For instance, I'm using Google Scholar, which is a small application within the Google family. It's an excellent tool for researcher and is the de facto standard of searching articles. So libraries are losing in a way, whereas Google is having a much more, say, better product. And we are in that way paying with our privacy in a way, but I'm, say, fine with that. I don't think that antitrust companies or agency or laws will have a huge impact on, say, Google or other firms, similar size firms. But I think also within 5-10 years, we will see new firms that are in the same size of Google or Facebook, and maybe Google or Facebook will be gone on the market. Because the changes that we see on growth and decline in firms now are, say, unexpected. Take Nokia, which we thought were dominating the world, are slowly or quickly dying in a way.
I think I have a. It just hurts my feelings. No, just kidding. This thing about giving up your privacy, even though it's not supposed to be the topic, but you said it like 5 times now, and it starts to hurt. There's a fine line between being shown an advertisement in a product versus giving up your privacy. When you give up your privacy, it sort of implicates that someone else gets access to your data. That's not how we run our services. Just periodically, it's not how we run our services. So the Adidas email, there is no advertiser that gets any access to any emails at any point in time. Not now, nor in the future. Just fundamentally against every principle that we stand for. So without going into a long debate on it, it's just, as long as you understand, you don't give up your privacy. We just show you an ad, okay? So now moving on to your question earlier, I think it's very much so. If you think of Google.com as a service, competition is one click away. If you don't like the service you get, if you don't like the speed, if you don't like the relevancy, if you don't like the look and feel, what prevents you from Binging instead, or Yahooing, or something new? Nothing. So we're only as good as long as we remain loyal to our users, and we keep innovating. Size matters in that front, absolutely. But when Facebook started, there was one guy in a basement, and Twitter, and there's other examples. Angry Birds are really seeing huge success in each of their markets. They were not big when they started. They just had the right idea. And there's nothing that has changed in that aspect. If you have the right idea, you can be 2 guys in India or 2 guys in a basement in Denmark. There's no difference. And Google are, as a company, we think it's great that innovation is out there. We make our software open source, so we're not hanging on to it and not want to share. We're actually just the opposite. But if you don't innovate, you can become irrelevant.
If there's a comment out there.
Mikkel Holsten, I'm also from the former National IT and Telecom Agency, and because we have been disbanded, I guess I can speak a bit more freely until we find a new home. I like to talk about the freemium model, and I know this has been celebrated for a few years, and we could also compare it to one of the most discussed issues the last week, which is, of course, Steve Jobs and Apple computer. And Apple is famous for being the completely opposite in many ways, having a very highly integrated product line, having a closed business model in many ways, but also famous for being very successful in this matter. Google, on the other hand, seems to be the completely opposite, where and the completely meet all the criteria of a company that can really make money out of the long tail model as we are presented here. But what we have seen in, I can't remember how long time it was since, but was Google acquiring Motorola. And I'd like to ask the Google representative, is this a step away from Google and the freemium model and a step towards a more integrated business model where you also can make money on hardware and so forth? And if this is the case, we're looking into a future where freemium might not be the solution, and then what comes after freemium?
Okay. I think, first of all, Google has a world of respect for Apple as a company. They're a last leader. And everything that Apple has done, a lot of respect. We think Apple has paved the way partly for the success that we're enjoying on cloud computing. the way they have consumerized IT, giving you, each one of you, devices in your pockets at home that are more advanced than what you get at work and are more exciting than what you get at work. So only respect for that company, and we see them as a leading star in many aspects. Not in all aspects, but in many aspects. Now your question on an announcement to acquire a company in the future, that is way beyond my pay grade, that I can't answer that question. It's a good and relevant question, but I can't really answer. We haven't acquired them, we've made some intentions, and the deal is not closed, so I can't answer.
I'm not going to try to answer it either, but I think I can compliment by adding to that these business models surrounding freemium are also to a large extent based not just on charging for premium services, but also charging for hardware. Because a lot of business models today are evolving around the fact that that hardware is still a scarce resource that somebody will have to pay for, but the value of the hardware dramatically increases in proportion to the value of the free software or free content that's put on the hardware. So you can easily see, in my opinion, a business model where Google or other companies continues to supply their services or their content for free and then starts making money on charging for innovative hardware design and so on. Not that I think that Google is going to do that, but it's a very used business model, in particular within the open source world.
If you go back to, sorry, just to jump in again, if you go back to a few years ago when we launched a browser which was called Chrome, is called Chrome. Today Chrome is not just a browser, it's also an operating system, and it's something that is evolving. And the idea about Chrome was not so much to deliver a number one browser in the market and really rule the world. It was really to push the other vendors into making a better product. If we're delivering cloud services, how can we put all our eggs in the basket of one or two players that has to decide the access to the cloud services, the browser? So it was very much about pushing other products to be better, and we think we have accomplished that a lot. And a lot of choices that we make is really influencing other vendors in the market. Not to scare them, but it has a tendency of competition is very, very healthy.